What I'm after, Pat, is I'm just collecting stories of wisdom and contentment. And that is not to say that in any way I'm presuming that any of us have a corner on the market on wisdom or that we're the sage guru on contentment.
Sure.
But I am compelled by your content. I'm really interested in how authentic it is and how you're trying to help dads be better dads and more present. And so that's my brief introduction about me. But Jordan, why don't you share a little bit about what got you into collaborating with me?
Yeah, absolutely. Michael and I know each other through church, and I've been good friends with his sons and eventually connected with Michael on a personal level. I think the older generation can oftentimes feel that the younger generation, they either aren't aligned on perspective or they also just don't understand why the younger generation is feeling so many different things in this world. And having a conversation with one another, I think, allows both the younger and older generation to just gain perspective on like why we're feeling what we're feeling. And that ties in this idea of wisdom. Wisdom, I think, stems from our own experiences. Not that all experiences can create healthy wisdom, but I think it's important for us to understand where each other is coming from in order to actually mend this concept of feeling behind, but also mend this gap between the younger and older generation. And so
Sure.
my desire is that Michael and I can be two individuals who not only practice this intergenerational conversation and this movement towards contentment, but that we could also be an illustration to those around us what this conversation can look like. And I'm excited to bring other guests onto the show because I think the conversation between Michael and I is, although it can feel very rich at times, I think it can also be very stuck in one lane, for lack of a better phrase. And so
Sure.
hearing other people's perspectives, other people's understanding of life, I think allows for more diversity in this overall concept of wisdom and contentment.
Sure. So are you both content?
Great question. And I would say that for the longest time within the past few years within my own self, I wrestled with contentment. I was not content. And it came to a point where I will confess that this past fall, I kind of hit a wall. I looked at myself, I looked at my life, and I was like, why is it that I have everything that I've ever wanted? I've done really well in my career. I've been doing well financially at 27, yet I feel so empty. I actually am not content when I literally have everything that I've ever wanted. And I'm not a wealthy person by any means, but I'm pretty comfortable. And that, I would say, actually provoked this conversation. And within the past 6 months or so, give or take, I've been starting to really work on rewiring my thought process and even taking my thoughts captive to adapt to a healthier perspective. And I can see how, although I would say my contentment is not consistent, it is growing. I think eventually it's transitioned to a consistent form of contentment. But that's at least for me. Michael, why don't you go ahead and answer that?
Yeah. I think I'm happier than I've ever been. And it's essentially a combination of hard work and luck. So work-wise, very content. At home, proud of my boys and relatively content. My wife and I are just grappling with different health issues that come in your 50s.
Sure.
So that messes with the contentment.
Sure.
And then in this creativity, Pat, I got to say, this typically when I do an interview, I'm riding a high for a couple of days. It just fills my cup to enjoy people's company. And it fascinates me that in the 21st century, we're taking time to give each other our full attention as much as we can muster. We set aside time. We got online at 8:00 and we said we were going to do it, and we did it despite all the reasons to be distracted and whatever. So I always count that a victory. And then the opportunity to practice a little listening and paraphrasing. I tend to talk a lot. So anytime I can listen and paraphrase better than I talk, I consider that a victory. So overall, yes, I would say I'm content, and I want to share that and mine it in other people and pull it out so we can distribute that via podcast and reels and other things like that. So with that, I'm going to officially just kick off the show and welcome you, Pat Barber, for coming on the show. Welcome to the show. I picked up on your content I guess because the algorithm fed me your content because of I think there's some overlap in what we're trying to do.
Sure.
And I saw that you had several thousand followers, and I was like, I wonder if he's up for sharing some time and attention with a guy that's relatively new to the scene. So I am just so glad to have you, and that you're creating and spending time creating for years now content about helping guys regulate emotion, be engaged with their kiddos. And I would love to throw it to you, Pat, to introduce yourself and your effort, and maybe a little bit about your why you create what you do. Why do you spend all this time offering this content to the world, and why you took my invite to come on the show. I just so glad to have you here.
Sure. Well, I'll answer that first one or that last one, because it's really easy and it's top of mind. I think anytime you get an opportunity to speak on something that you think, you should take it, because it's an opportunity to round out your true understanding of what you're saying. I think it's really easy to exist in a place where you think all these things and you have all these ideas, but until you have to articulate those to other people, it really, they're just thoughts. They're not real. They're not tangible. And I think that by coming on a podcast and meeting you two guys, no matter who you are, like whatever it is, if I can't articulate and get you to understand the things that I'm thinking, then the things that I'm thinking aren't full thoughts. And I got really disenchanted with social media a few years ago. I still am very disenchanted with social media, but I left social media for a couple years just because I saw it doing far more harm than it does good for the larger world. And I still believe that in a lot of ways. But I realized that it's not going anywhere. And I thought to myself, I could either keep complaining, or I could put out something that I truly believed in and something that I was passionate about. And so I started essentially a forward-facing journal called The Father's Guild, which was my thoughts on fatherhood. And I love being a dad. I am extremely content as a father and as a man. And you're probably going to find very few people who are as content in their lives as I am. And I was like, I want more people to feel this way. I want more people. And I think this is the thread you were talking about that's similar, is like, I want more people to just look at their life and go, heck yeah, it's not easy. Nothing about it's easy. It's really hard and excruciating, but I'm deeply satisfied with the way I'm moving through this. And I want more people to be that way. And it started mainly on just my thoughts on fatherhood. But then when I look to expand on what that means, it's mainly about personal development. It's a recognition of, in order to be a great father, it's not about tools and tactics. It's about being a better man. So what does that look like? And I'm living it. And as I'm living it, I'm sharing it. And I also simultaneously have to play the weird social media game, because you could have the best message in the world, but unless it's seen, it doesn't matter. So what you have to do is you have to navigate things by getting them seen. And so how do you get them seen? You have to play the game of social media. And for a while, I wasn't playing the game. I was just putting the stuff out and being like, this is good, but it wouldn't go anywhere. So nobody would see it. So I was like, fine, I'll play the game. I can't be mad at the game if I'm not playing it, right? So I start playing the game, and then all of a sudden posts started going viral. And I was like, oh, I wasn't playing the game before. So now I teeter back and forth between getting the message out I want and playing the game. And that's the world that I find myself in, is continuing to produce content to aid the man space and fatherhood space, because I think there's very unbalanced conversations happening there. And I want to come and provide some balance and some authenticity to the center of that. And very recently, I lost a job and was like, hey, I've got this 200,000 person following. Maybe there's something I could offer these people that would be genuinely valuable, that they could purchase, and I would benefit from that. And that took me about 3 years to figure out what could work there, because I would say if there's something that I haven't fully succeeded in my life, it's understanding finance to the place where I feel fully free. Everything else, I would say I'm extremely content. And even as a lifestyle stamp, I would say content. But there is a game of finance that I have not figured out yet. I say, while living on 5 acres in the mountains of Santa Cruz, California, and with everything that you could ever want, I just haven't fully figured it out. So that's me. And that's why I'm here. And that's what I do.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for putting all that together. Jordan, as you listen to that, what bubbles up in you? What are you interested to discover together in the podcast here?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say I really admire that you are a dad, especially of 4 boys. I come from a family of 4 kids, and the house was never quiet growing up. And I am not married. I don't have kids. Something I long for one day, but it's also something that I just don't have right now. And a question that was thinking of when you were sharing about the contentment you have with your family, the first question I would ask is, for one, before you had a family and kids, was that something of interest to you, or was it something that you fell into, or if it is something you had longed for during that period of waiting, how did you practice contentment?
Yeah. And so I think this goes back to when I was thinking about when you were describing contentment earlier. And even in some of you guys' questions, and the first question that you had there was a series of things you were talking about. How do we transition from chasing an abstract timeline to finding grit and contentment in our current baseline?
Yeah.
And this whole question I was not resonating with. And part of it is I've never set out for anything. I had extremely low aspirations my entire life. And not as though like I thought I wasn't worthy of stuff. It's just like there was never a need. And I don't know if it's like ADD or something, whatever it is, but like I've never been like, I want that. I want to go there and do that. I was always quite in the moment and just I'm thinking about now. That's all I've got. And I'm going to think about now and I'm going to go here. So to answer your question directly, I was never like, I'm going to, yeah, kids, I want them. I aspire to have them. I go this place. It's never been that. It was like, I guess if I look back on it, I love playing sports. That was something that I was always like, I want to keep doing this. I want to keep playing sports. But other than that, someone had to force me to sit down and write goals when I was like 18. I think my high school teacher was like, you got to write some life goals. And I was like, cool. So I wrote out some life goals and it was excruciating. I'm like, I don't really care about this, but you're telling me I have to write these. And then when I met my wife, within a year of knowing her, I had completed all of those goals.
Wow.
All of the life goals that I had written down. So I was like, here I am again with no life goals, like just living life. And so I never was like, yeah, I really want to have kids. But what kids did do is they gave profound meaning to me. Like, I think, and it wasn't something that I went in being like, kids are going to give me purpose and meaning. I went in relatively nonchalant to having children. We had a kid. And I had an identity that I had built up of who I was and how I navigated the world. And I am me, and this is how I go. And then kids just destroyed that. They were like, this is not you. You can't be this. You aren't this. In fact, you don't matter anymore. And it was extremely confronting and the best thing that could ever happen to me, because there are, I think, different spectrums of people. There are people who have been told for some reason or another, or who feel that they need to service the world. They need to be there they need to help everyone. I need to be there for you. And they will kill themselves to do so. And those type of people need to be more selfish. They need to be like, hey, I need to take care of me first before I go helping everyone else. But they're thought of as such amazing people, but they end up running themselves ragged. And I see a lot of men in that scenario. I think a lot of people from Michael's generation in that scenario is like, man, guy serves, doesn't affect health, doesn't do all these things. It's just like, I will just die for my family. It's like, they probably want you to live. they like, how do I navigate that? So I was on the other end of the spectrum where I was like probably the most selfish human being you knew. Not that I was unkind to people, but I was always thinking of me first. And I don't know if that's a result of my parents divorcing when I was 11 and me being like, me versus the world, let's go, or whatever it is. Life had made it so I took care of me. And so I was always, no matter what situation I was in, I was always good. And kids and a good wife derailed that to where it was like, it's not about me anymore. And the wife kind of did it, but then the kids shattered it to where I had to look outside of self. And when I started looking outside of self and letting go of the non-basic needs, like I need to have my special me time 3 days a week. It's like, no, you don't. You really don't. And in fact, you're not going to get it whether you want it or not. And it's like, and you're going to be okay because you're going to watch your son at the park pick up a bug and it's going to rip your heart apart. The fact that he's stoked on this bug and runs over to you and hands it to you. And So children gave me a sense of purpose that I'd never had, because it went from being about me to being about something else. And then with that perspective, I've now looked at the larger world and everyone I meet, and I'm like, how can I make your life better? And coming from a profound place of, I know how to be selfish, I know how to take care of me, I'm good. I got to figure out how to then make you good. And being a coach, that's been what I've done for a long time, but now on a much deeper level, because I'm like, oh, I actually care about you, because I'm not a selfish butthead anymore, which is what I used to be. So I think if you were to take something from it, I think there's two sides of this story. Some people need to learn to be more selfish and take care of themselves so that they can service others. And some people kind of need to be on the other side and learn to take care of others, because they're going to find profound meaning in that. And you kind of have to identify where you're at and be like, what am I naturally? And it can change from scenario to scenario. It can be different at work than it is at home. And it can be different in your friendships than it is with your family. And we need to be like good on a personal level and then try to outservice the world. That's my theory on it.
Oh, thank you for sharing. I really appreciate your answer there, Pat. As in, I actually was reflecting as you were sharing within myself, where do I lie in that area? And I think naturally I am a people pleaser, and that can be a good thing or a bad thing. In a bad way, I can overextend myself in unhealthy amounts. I think in a good way, though, it's really made me want to fill needs and meet multiple people where they're at and be there for them. And you brought up a great point about learning to be selfish a little bit, to take care of yourself, because Michael has seen this part of my life before, where I will overextend myself trying to give to people, and then I end up acting and falling. And working out was one of the things that actually forced me to understand the value of delayed gratification, because you don't get a nice body overnight. You don't get it even in a week. But as I've seen this transition within my own life, as I've worked out, it's actually resulted in a deeper gratitude for this delayed gratification, which has then transformed not just in my workout, but literally in every area of my life, where now I'm thinking constantly of, oh yes, if I buy X, Y, and Z now, what does that rob me of in the future financially?
Here's an interesting one. You've talked about this feeling like you're not at the destination where you want to be. But I think if we start to look at things as there is no destination, our destination is death. Our destination is we die. That is, and even after that, depending on the faith you have, there's not an end. You keep going. There's no destination. The idea that there is comical in and of itself. So when we start to see things that promise value at their destination, you're like, wait a second, that should immediately throw up red flags. And so let's think about something like the personal trainer that you hired. My guess, and based off the way you phrased it, and this will be a bit of a mind screw, you hired him to make you look good. You want to look fitter. You want to have better abs. You want to be perceived in a certain way. That's an end. That's an end state. That means it's not real, because once you get there, you're not going to be like, I'm happy now. You're going to be like, no, well, where can I go from here? And when you pursue something that's like that, it's like, what is this really for? What's the point of looking good? So other people see me and make me look good? There's no value in that. I guess I already can attract the opposite. I already can have these. Like, maybe it's so I feel good. No, it's so I feel good. But it's like, why do you need to look good in order for you to feel good? Shouldn't you want to feel good? Shouldn't feeling good be something that you feel regardless of the way you look, and then you can pursue things that would then that make you maybe look the way you want to look? And that's where I'm at in this fitness space. Is like, I don't think looking good is a valuable pursuit. I think it is. I think it's a hollow, empty hole, and people will sell it to you because it's easy. But you know what? The real reason you train, and the real reason that training's so hard, is, here's the thing about this: training is fake stress. That's what it is. All personal training is relatively new in human history because we don't live physiologically difficult enough lives that if we were to sit around and just live our lives, we would die young because we get feeble and old and have to sit down and never get back up again because we don't plow fields, we don't hunt food, we don't, like, all of training is fake stress. We are stimulating physiological stress so our body adapts to that stress and changes. So it's inevitably going to be hard because we're faking stress that we don't have to be doing. So psychologically, we're already in a place of like, this is pointless. And then we're layering on top of it this superficial, I'm doing this so other people perceive me better. It's like, who cares? Like, I shouldn't care how you perceive me. I should care how I perceive me. And the real purpose behind training should be that you live a long, healthy life, should be that you move your body in such a way that you stress the organism so that as you age, you decline to a greater place. You can do cartwheels when you're 80 and you never have to live in a nursing home. That's the reason we should be training, because that's never ending. You don't stop training at some point. You just keep it as part of your life. Whereas if you think about it as an end state of like, this is how I get my six pack and people will finally like me. It's like, no, that's fundamentally incorrect. And I'll finally like myself. And it's like, no, you won't. You'll get there and you'll be like, where else can I go? What else can I do? And I don't know, it's a fascinating one for me because even on the layers, and actually that's a good framework that now that I'm thinking about it, of if it's promising an end state, then it's likely a hollow goal. If it's promising that once you get here, then you'll be good. Then it's once you have the money or once you have the wife and kids, that's the happiness point. It's if it's promising you infinite work for the rest of your life, it's probably a better goal.
Wow.
I love that.
Yeah, no, I do too. You think you got a lot of wisdom.
I know some great gyms. Actually, one of my, do you live anywhere near are you near Boulder?
No, that's north and west of me. I'm on the south side of town. But what I need to do is go ahead.
Just the stressing thing's a fascinating one because there's two kinds of stress, right? There's eustress and distress. Eustress is stress that you grow from, and distress is stress that continues to break you down. And I talked about it physiologically when it comes to like training, but it's also psychological. That's how we grow psychologically. And what's fascinating about psychological growth is it's about perception. So how you perceive the situations that you're in will change whether or not it's stress that you can adapt to or stress that continues to harm you. So essentially, like when they talk about things like PTSD and whatnot, it's like stress that they have not been able to process, things that they don't have a way through just yet. And once we are able to get on the other side of it and how you perceive the stress and the things that you're under, it explains a lot of the differences in people who come up in the same dysfunctional household, but one succeeds and one fails. It's how they're perceiving the stress that they were under, even though their life was, for all intents and purposes, quite similar. Which goes to speaking to, dude, how can we change our mindset around, because like the stresses that we're under and the reality and the acceptance that I talked about, it's like, you can't get away from the fact that I haven't slept for 10 years like that, but how, and there's some like physiological stress there that is inescapable and it is deleterious to my health. But if I sat around and was like, I'm so worried about the sleep that I'm getting or not getting, it's like, just, that's going to make it even worse. So how do we go, okay, what can I do with this? Yeah.
I have a thought on that, Pat. And I think because I'm a Brene Brown fan, she would say it's because of the story you're telling yourself about the past 10 years.
Sure.
The narrative about losing sleep for what? If it's a source of complaint, you're going to develop some conditions and bad habits. But you found deep joy, whether it's your son bringing a bug or you seeing your kids level up and grow and develop, or you're learning to develop the emotional regulation that you've talked about in some of your content. That builds a story where it's like, I am powerful enough to grow and adapt. I am growing. I'm not perfect, but I'll keep iterating and evolving. A lot of people tell themselves and get stuck in a story. And that's the problem with the story, for better or worse, is it's very catchy for better or worse. It's hard to get out of your echo chamber or out of your story, but it's well worth it if your story is dysfunctional and it's creating a bunch of useless or destructive collateral damage. So I think that's part of it. I would just add that to the conversation.
Well, before I move forward, one thing I meant to mention, like we've been talking about a lot of people who get knowledge, but then it's not wisdom and they talk too much. And we've very specifically been relating that to religion. I think that is in every walk of life. I don't think that is religion. Cannot claim that as the fallacy within it. It doesn't matter whether you're in fitness or health or whatever it is. Like there are people in that exact same place. It's like half the internet is that right now. It's people who are speaking to something with very little actual experience of it, but talking about it.
Yeah. Or like recent college graduates. I was that guy at one point. You know, you're like, oh yeah, I know how to calculate the flexure of this beam, and then you get into the real world and you're like, oh.
You're like, yeah.
I'm thinking about bringing us to a close here. It's gone very quickly, and I have really enjoyed this conversation. I have thoughts in two directions, Pat, and I'll let you take it where you want. I'm thinking about, what do you think generations younger than you maybe need to learn based on your experience working with people younger than you? So there's one question about that, like something you might offer to folks younger than you. Then my other question is, what are you, Pat, asking and talking to your mentors, people older than you, about at this stage as you prepare for the next stage for your boys or whatever it may be? I just wonder, what do you think younger folks might need to learn, and what are you yourself leaning into to grow in by way of mentorship or older guys speaking into your life?
Interesting. For younger guys, I would just say, I think it's important that you recognize that there's more than one right way to do things sooner rather than later. And the more you can be really curious just about why someone might be doing something rather than just attack what they're doing, I think the better off you'll be. So the more curious you can be sooner and recognize that there might be something better than what you currently do out there, I think the quicker you'll grow. I think you'll just learn, you'll just make better friends, you'll have deeper connections, you'll do a lot of those things. You just got to be curious and realize that, like, no one is coming from a place of, I think I'm really wrong, let me tell everyone. They're hugely being like, I think I figured it out. And or I think I'm right. And then so I think be curious and recognize that there is more than one correct way to do stuff, which is extra hard in our day and age, with people needing to make big, bold statements and say, this is how it is. And it's like, yeah, it's not, for so many people, but I hear you. So I would say the younger generation, the quicker they can learn that, the quicker the path to wisdom will be, because then you can start actually hearing stuff for what it is, and you can start going inward and seeing where your own preconceived notions exist. So yeah, I would say that for the younger generations. Let's see, for older, what this is a hard one. I am going to admit that I need to do a better job of looking to my elders. I think I have always hated authority. I have always fought and pushed back and I was very rebellious when it came to teachers and my parents and everyone. Everyone that was in a position of authority above me, I fought. I don't know exactly where that comes from, but that's been me my whole life. And so I've found more solace in peers than I have in the generation above. So I don't know. I think I need to do a better job in my life of reaching out to people of that generation. Yeah. I wish I had a better answer for you other than that.
That's a beautiful answer, because it's honest, and you did what you said you would do at the beginning, which is, hey, if I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know, or whatever. It's not that you don't know, you're processing. Welcome to the podcast. That's precisely why we're here. Why are these spaces not more common? Why does the American male live mostly in their lane? Where have the fires gone? Why are we not sitting in a diverse group, a council of elders? Now, if we have old man Withers down the block that's a boomer, and then me, a Gen X, and you, and a couple of each of us, we're going to realize, what do we do when we don't see the world the same? And this is not a skill we are good at in the 21st century. We don't know how to, what do we do? Do we chuckle awkwardly when we don't all see it the same? Do we text our friends the next day?
No, we have open and honest conversation about it. I think the problem is there's not been good examples of what it means to have an honest, non-aggressive dialogue around just that's not modeled for us. Even if you were to ask me, there's a lot of older generations that if I were to go to present to something that was on their other side, they would dismiss it. No matter how intelligent I am, they would just be like, their brain feels hardened over. And I'm like, what are you doing? I do the younger generations because they're a little bit more open to things. But at the same time, I think there are people of the older generations who would be possible, but you'd have to get such a unique group of people into rooms, and they'd have to have some commonality. It's like, how do you make that happen? Because this is fine. We're over this space here, but it'd be better if we were around a fire, right? I run retreats
so
for
much
men.
better.
So I'm trying to I'm trying to make it so I actually create these spaces. Like I run retreats for men. So like Thursday, I've got a 4-day off-grid retreat at my house. I'm here in Santa Cruz, California. I've got 5 dudes coming up from very different walks of life, and we're all just going to sit around by a fire, and we're going to eat yummy food, and we're going to spend time in nature. We're going to journal. We're going to do some very basic stuff, but it's like I take their phones. They don't get any contact. They have no responsibility, and we're just going to be. And it's fascinating the kind of conversations that happen with people, and I can structure that. But it would be really cool to have way more than 4 dudes. Like, how do we make that happen? And it's, I think, I almost started crying a little bit when you were bringing that up, because I think there needs to be physical spaces. And I just before this was like, I've run so many successful gyms in my life, and the gyms were always awesome. They were just like a haven for people from all walks of life to come in and throw down in these classes, these communities. It's like it had a very churchy vibe, but minus the church. It was the church of doing really hard workouts. And so you have these very different walks of life coming together. And I think that honestly, that's a thing that I'm envious of religion. I think religion and church is a great place to make that happen, especially if you can make it happen. I think it happens better in churches than it does in any other place currently. A crossover of generations that are willing to talk, that are often willing to be honest. But I think, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at that from the outside. I don't see many other places it happens. So maybe we need to create it, Michael. Maybe it's bigger than this podcast. It's like you have to have a figurehead, somebody who's powerful enough to be like, fuck it, I'm doing this. Sorry, I swore. I'm doing this, and I'm gonna lead it, and I'm gonna create a space where people can bring differing opinions, and they can have totally opposing political views, and it's not about and have conversations. And I don't know.
Wow.
It's doable.
Yeah. No, it is. Oh gosh. Sorry.
It is doable. I'll let you go, Jordan. I am working to create that space. I host a men's fire every month, and a lot of guys come from church, but I tell them, guys, this isn't church. This is not a Bible study. And so the rules are different here. And you can actually use bad words if you want. Like we do all the things to make it what sounds like you're doing in Santa Cruz. And I'm with you, man. I'm glad that we just found that common ground. And if this makes me buzz, then the men's fire sends me up for about a week. The fellowship of men being very honest about who they are, what they're feeling is just so entirely cool for me. So I'm glad we found some common ground there. And Jordan, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, it's actually a really refreshing thing to hear you share all of that, Pat. I think this is something we all 3 have in common. And it's interesting.
You're living in a fake world if you're afraid of bad words. You're like, I don't know what you're doing. It's like
when you were like, can I cuss? I was like, dude, of course. Michael's heard me say some very colorful things.
But that's all. It goes back to the honesty thing. That's all it takes. All it takes is just being honest with the world. And then your kids want to be around you. The people who are around you know exactly where they stand. Like they might not like you, but they know exactly where they stand. And if they don't like you, then they won't be around you. It's like and then you get the choice of whether or not how you dish stuff out. I don't know. I think that people make parenting so hard. And I'm like, dude, just be a good human. There's mountains of scripture on how to be a good human. Just do the things that it says, and life will be pretty good. If you look to the things that make you a good person, they're not nebulous. They're like, be honest, be kind, be curious, take care of yourself, take care of other people, don't lie. And then you go later on, eat decent food, and you've got a great life. You'll be content.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh,
Honesty, integrity, the journey, be a good person and eat good food.
Yeah.
I love it. The 5-point plan.
that should be a
I think what I'm struck by way of closing, Pat, and what I love about having talked to you is that in so many ways you're living out what Jesus was talking about on the Sermon on the Mount. He was talking about becoming the kind of people that are just really honest about life. And I see you talking about it, and I see now I'm putting together what I saw in the 90-second snips with what we've talked about for now 90 minutes. I've seen you respond to the younger generation. I've seen you be honest about an area or two where you're still growing. And I see someone that is working so hard to create space for men to grow their honesty muscles and keep it as simple and yet very hard as it needs to be in order to be really present. And I love what you just said about why are you even bothering to go in your echo chamber on Facebook or sound off on politics when your kid is an utter brat or when your relationship is just so ugly? It makes no sense to be concerned about something so global when your little village is in distress. I'm really glad I got to cross paths with you and that you had the mindset of, hey, I'll take any offer to connect and jump on a podcast. So that's how I'm ending. I'm curious for you, Jordan, then Pat, I'll let you have the final word. How are you ending this conversation? What are you sitting with?
I would say for myself, what I've really been sitting with is honesty. I've been thinking about that within my own life ever since you brought it up, Pat. And it's interesting because I think even you brought up the thought of, oh, I said something and I realized there's a slight twist that's not 100% true. And I can't believe I told someone that. And I think you even in a kind way called me out in the sense that I'm still searching. I'm searching for what is it that I want in this life. And that's probably why I have multiple endeavors that I'm chasing right now. And I don't think there's anything wrong necessarily with searching, but I think in order for searching to be effective, you have to be honest with what do you want in this life and what are you feeling? Also, what are your fears? What are your anxieties? And honesty is something that I think I was really vulnerable and honest with my entire life for a significant period of time. And then about 3 years ago, I was having a conversation with an individual I was forming a business partnership with. And the conversation went completely sideways when I was very honest about personal questions this individual had asked me. And they completely blew up on me and got in my face, cursed me out. It was this whole thing. And it actually made me it made me shut down. And I remember I went home and I literally threw up and I was in tears for 2 days because I was just so put off by someone's aggressive behavior through my transparency, through my honesty. And it made me kind of dial things back quite a bit where I was like, wow, I don't know if I can be myself because I don't want to make someone so uncomfortable. And I think the reason why I was concerned about comfort is because this person meant a lot to me at the time. And now as I've completely stopped communicating with this person as a whole. And it's interesting because this individual had said a bunch of things to our common friends, and all of our common friends have all said, actually, we see Jordan's character. We know Jordan. We know that those things aren't true. It's made me more confident again in just being myself, being truthful. But I will say it's an art that I've lost practice of over the past 3 years. And it's something within the past, I would say 6 months that I've been really trying to get back into. And so for me, what I'm taking from this whole discussion is Jordan, what are you honestly feeling about these things? And can you be honest with yourself right now? And even think before you speak. I think oftentimes I can think about what I want to say, or I can even think about how I want what I'm saying to be received, but I don't think about, okay, but how truthful is what I'm saying? And it's not that I'm saying things that are blatant, complete lies, but I can twist just 1% of what I'm saying to make me sound how I want to be received, how I want whatever it is that I'm saying to be received. But then at that point, I compromise the truth. And so you've given me a lot of internal dialogue to go forward with, to really ask, where am I at? What am I feeling? And then even more so too, what do I want for myself, for my future? And I appreciate that greatly. I have a lot of friends who are around your age, but the guys specifically, the men, the fathers, the husbands, I feel like they just have more insight on things that I one day want to maybe become, but also too, you've done a great job of showing that you have detached from specific expectations for yourself and you've just allowed life to carry you forward as a sail in the wind. So I feel like I could learn from you as well. But I just really appreciate your thoughts this evening. I really enjoyed talking with you and Michael. I had a rough past 2 weeks, and all this to say, this has really filled up my cup. And I just feel really refreshed right now. So thank you.
So if you were to be dishonest, it doesn't mean you're bad. You recognize that, right? The lack of honesty is not out of I'm a bad person. It's out of fear. That's where it comes from. People don't lie in order to be bad. They lie out of fear, and that those lies change. So when you talk about what you were saying there, is someone hurt you when you were honest. So now it's, of course, you're going to have times where you're not quite as truthful as you could be. But it's not about completely eliminating those times. It's about when those times happen, you see it and you go, why was that there? Why did I do that? And then you go into it, right? Because there's still times in my own life where I'm gonna skirt around something and it's just gonna slide its way in there. And I'll be like, wait, what the fuck was that? And then I go, what? Why was that? Why did I do that? What? And then like I sit down with my journal and I write, like, today I said this. Why did I say that? What was I feeling there? Like where? Because like you're not gonna escape those mistakes. You're not gonna. That pain's always gonna be there, man. That dude hurt you, which sucks. And that's real. And that is the danger of being honest. You can be hurt, like really hurt by the people you care about the most. And so when you find yourself, you shouldn't chastise yourself for them lying after that. It's like, yeah, duh. But every opportunity where you get the time to come into integrity and be truthful, that's just another, it's another step. What's the most important step a man can take? And it's the next one. And it lands so hard for me, where it's like the most important step a man can take is the next one. It's not the first one. It's not the last one. It's the next one. It's just like, as long as we keep taking steps forward, we have an opportunity to do something different or to be different or to have better time. And it's like, I hear a lot of pain in what you were saying there. And that fucking sucks that you experienced that. The number of times, like, I relate to that very deeply, of times where I've been honest and just been cracked on. And you're like, I'm not going to do that to that guy again. That was, no, that you are not worthy of my time. I cannot be honest with you. I'm going to have to withhold things. And that's just the reality. But so don't hear in what anything I'm saying of like, you're bad if you have little lies that slip out here and there. I think just take that there's examination to be had of like, why did that come out? There's some fear there. There's an underlying pain that needs to be examined. Anyway,
Wow. Thank
that
you.
was long, but you're welcome. I've happily foster a friendship, man. Just reach out anytime. I'm happy to chat. I'll leave you guys with something. Yeah,
what are you sitting with, Pat, as you wrap up 90 minutes of meeting two new guys, sharing some of your stories, seeing our responses? What's resonating, or what are you sitting with as you close?
These conversations are so important, right? I think that being able to express deeper thoughts and pose ideas and say, hey, what do you think about this? And have someone have a coherent answer and take it on board and sit and listen and then be like, I have this side. I think that those things are so important. And I think that's what we get from this. Michael, you talked about coming off on a high. It's like you get a level of depth that's so hard to face in this world right now. And I'm really fortunate. My wife is deeply intelligent and we have a fantastic relationship. So we can have deep conversations, not about everything, but we could have it about everything, but we don't, because I need other men to have conversations with. And I think that there's a big component of that. And that's what I've kind of tried to create some with the Fathers Guild, but it's so forward facing. It's come consume my content. I want to get people, I know if I got them at my house, I could help them. I know if I get them at my retreat, I can help them, but I have to benefit from that. I can't just host free retreats because I need to eat. So it's like, I wrestle with this. If I had unlimited money, I would just be having weekend retreats all the time and just be bringing dudes up. It's like, this is free. Let's just make this happen. I'd open up multiple gyms around the country that I would show the people how to run and we would do all the things. I want to be my dad and I don't have unlimited money. So I need to simultaneously wrestle with this, like, how do I profit from this? Which sounds so unholy, but it's not. It's the reality of the world, but make it happen. So I don't know. These conversations need to happen. We're going to figure out more ways. Michael, you've got the fire that you're doing. You're going to do this crime investigation, real estate, an engineering crew, Jordan. It's going to be sick. You're going to engineer this place, this building that it's the whole thing.
It's going to be a whole thing.
Do it in our own little worlds.
Pat, thanks so much for coming on the show. Jordan, thanks so much for your engagement. I can see you're just really needing some words. And it's so cool when you see someone else receive words that they need to hear, especially from older men. So I know, Pat, you're mentioning the inner rebel. There is
Yeah.
something good and true and beautiful in approaching the older generation. And I think the older generation, by and large, is sitting there waiting. They know better than to offer their stuff for the most part. So in any case, I'm going to close with that and just say thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so glad to have
Always
you, Pat.
open.
Thank you again for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate the time.